I just finished watching the last episode of You season 5, and there's one line that literally shook me to my core. It goes, "The fantasy of a man like you is how we cope with the reality of a man like you." And it generally hit me. That is what I have been doing my entire life with fictional bad boys and even real life ones. I didn't want to see the monster, so I romanticized him instead. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't watched my videos before, then hi, my name is Fleur. This is your space for all things self-development where we focus on growth, mindset, and becoming the best version of yourself. So if that sounds like something you want to be included on, then welcome to my channel. We all know that guy. He's dangerous. He's mysterious. He likes to hide in the back of the classroom, trying to go unnoticed. Maybe he kills people, literally, but somehow we fall for him anyway. Joe Goldberg, Tate Langdon, Damon Salvatore, the Joker, even the Beast from Beauty and the Beast before he turns into a prince. These are all fictional characters that I myself have romanticized through the years. They're plastered all over TikTok with soft indie music playing over an edit of their most psychotic moments. Why? Because fiction gives us the perfect canvas to project our fantasies. We take their danger and we repaint it as depth. We take their manipulation and we call it devotion. And honestly, I don't know about you, but that kind of feels a little bit terrifying that as a society, that is what we're doing. So here are 8 core psychological reasons why we find ourselves falling for the villain. Number 1, we're drawn to mystery and danger. Who doesn't like a little bit of a story? A bad boy who has a story, because all villains have story. Even Joe Goldberg has his own backstory about being abused and being abandoned from his mother. This story is what draws us into their character, is what makes us want to know them. They don't follow the rules, and that unpredictability creates excitement in us. But this excitement is also known as arousal transfer, where fear or thrill is mistaken for attraction. And then suddenly, before you know it, that danger becomes desirable. And you don't want to just hear the story, you want to become a part of it, a side character, if you will. And then suddenly, we're romanticizing our partner wanting to hurt anyone just to protect you. Number 2, we think we can fix them. This is probably one of the most important reasons why we romanticize villains, because we like broken people. And you know why we like broken people? Because we can't fix ourselves, so instead we fix other people. We think about how we can make other people's lives better. How can we make them happier? How can we make them see the colors in the world? How can we make them love themselves when they look in the mirror? We think those things because we don't want to face the fact that we don't think those things about ourselves. That is not how our own life is correlating. We want to be that special exemption. No one else can fix the broken, bad villain, but we can. We're the special one that can actually make a difference. You think that you're not like the other girls or not like the other guys, that you can fix this person, but you can't. And I'm just going to tell you now, you cannot fix someone who does not want to be fixed. And the reality is that no one is going to be able to change that villain unless they themselves want to change. And they're a villain because they don't want to change, because they enjoy their pain. Number 3 is that we romanticize pain as depth. We seem to think that if someone doesn't have a traumatizing backstory, they can't be interesting as an individual. They can't be someone that seems to have a lot of depth. And then when people haven't been through that trauma, we just see them as boring. We just see them as not having experienced life in the same way that those traumatized individuals have. They have the lens of the world that we want. We want to change that lens of the world. But someone who's already done it for us is boring. They've already done the work. So what work can you do for them? None. But I want you to understand that pain doesn't always equal character. Number 4 is that we want to feel chosen. With the bad boy, with the villain, there's always one person that they decide to choose in order to make them feel as if they are able to make that change in their life. They'll say, with you, I'll be happier. With you, I won't feel like the world is against me. So you need to understand that you don't hold that power. They want to make you feel like you do hold that power so that you feel powerful, so that you feel like you have the upper hand. hand. And then before you know it, that's going to get switched around. And then suddenly you'll be the one saying those things to that person, not even realizing where that flip was switched. Having someone that hates absolutely everyone in the world but you makes you feel chosen. But I want you to understand that that hatred is soon going to be thrown back at you. And this is something that I mentioned in my 60 life lessons that I learned about love, which if you relate to this video, I definitely think you should check that one out. It gives you the illusion that you are the only person in this world that knows the real version of them. But I'll tell you a little bit of a secret. They don't even know the real version of them. So how can you know the real version of them? Number 5, they represent power and control. Usually the villains in any fictional story are always the one in control. You think about Joe Goldberg, he's the one that's in control. He's the one that has the upper hand. Even Damon Salvatore, everybody fears him. Everyone sees him as the bad brother. He has the power, he has the control. And unfortunately, that dominance can be confused with confidence or strength. And even in relationships, this dynamic can mirror toxic control. Number 6, we use fantasy to cope with reality. Just as I said in the intro, when we see a monster, when we see a bad villain, we try to think, oh, but someone must have hurt them, someone must have made them go this way. And we romanticize it. We romanticize that backstory. We romanticize all the good things about them, and we romanticize all the bad as well, and try and find a good reason as to why they are doing bad things. Romanticizing then becomes a survival mechanism so that you can then romanticize who you want them to be instead of the monster that they actually are, in order to protect yourself from the truth. Suffering is a choice. You can choose to be happy even if you've had a traumatic past. But that person is choosing to stay within their suffering because they find comfort in it, and they also enjoy being able to see someone else fight for them. They can't fight for themselves, so they want someone else to do it for them. Put it this way, they chose to set up a house, to build a foundation and build a house within their pain. And you are trying to sell them a house in a happy area of their mind, in a different location, in a location that they've never even been to before, that is not familiar to them. You can't convince them to then go and buy that house because they've already built a house. They've already put all of their years and time and energy into that house that they've built in their pain. So you can't try and convince someone to live the happier life. They need to go and see that house for themselves, decide that they prefer that house over the house they're currently living in, and then buy it. But you can't be the one to do it for them. They need to do it themselves. And then of course, number 7 is that the media glorifies them. A big reason why we are romanticizing these villains is because the media wants us to do so. Even with You in season 5, Joe Goldberg is literally romanticized. We see him through this romantic lens, and then we see all his actions as being justifiable even if they aren't. He's still killing people. Even if it's for love, he's still killing people. And so we as a society, because we see the media glorifying these people, we think that it's okay to romanticize them, and we just see it as a little quirky trait, even though it's not. It's a massive red flag. Audiences are literally set up to empathize with these people and even root for them to be better, to be the winner. Why do we want the villain to win? Why do we want that? Isn't that a bit worrying? Number 8 is that we mistake intensity for intimacy, but these are completely different things. A passionate argument, a near-death experience, a dramatic rescue. They all feel intense, but that intensity isn't necessarily real connection. It just feels like it's intimacy because your nervous system is so overwhelmed by everything that you are experiencing. So now that we've gone through these reasons why we romanticize the villain, let's talk about the coping mechanism and how we can get out of this toxic mindset. Number 1 is to acknowledge the pattern, which I definitely think you have done, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. So already you are on the first step to the path of healing. I don't want you to be mad at yourself or angry at yourself because you were likely doing what you felt was right to cope with what you didn't want to cope with, to survive, to get yourself through it. You need to replace this shame with self-compassion. Instead of calling your past self stupid for loving someone that clearly was hurting you the whole time, I want you to say, I see now why I was drawn to them. I wanted love, but I didn't know yet what healthy and self-love looked like. Number 2 is to redefine what healthy love looks looks and feels like. The only good thing about going through a toxic relationship is that you now know what not to look out for. You know now what red flags you want to run away from, so that if you ever see them again in the future, you know to say, goodbye. You need to start defining love as different. Love is not meant to be chaos, it's meant to be calm. Love is not meant to be full of intensity, it is meant to be full of clarity. Love is being seen and heard and understood and unconditionally loved. What I want you to do is to write your new definition of what healthy love looks like, and then look back to it every time someone new comes into your life. Make sure that you don't cross these boundaries and these rules that you've set out for yourself, and only go with someone that you know is right for you. Number 3 is to detox your media intake gently. Now, I don't mean you need to stop watching all of the films and the series with the bad boy and with the villain. You don't need to be doing that, but maybe sometimes push yourself to watching things that don't make you feel like you have to fall in love with the villain, and that make you feel like you can fall in love with the golden retriever instead. There are definitely a lot of films and series that don't push this belief that you have to be with someone that has a traumatizing background, and instead just grew up with a healthy life and actually loves their life, because that actually exists. There are people out there that actually love their life. Okay, don't mind me. I had to take off my cardigan because it's actually boiling in here. I want you to ask yourself these questions if you ever are watching something that has a villain or a bad character in it. Are you sympathizing with this character because they feel misunderstood and you think that they are misunderstood, or is it because that's what the media is trying to push you to do? Are you turning red flags into attractive traits and then replace or balance these unhealthy, toxic stories with more healthy and more loving stories instead that make you believe that healthy love actually does exist? Number 4 is to do the inner child work. Of course, it wouldn't be one of my YouTube videos if I wasn't mentioning shadow work, because generally this is where all the change came for me. I only started believing that I could be in a healthy relationship once I did the inner work, once I dealt with my shadow self. And if you don't know what shadow work is, it's basically having conversations with that inner child that has been hurt and that has been taught to believe a certain thing, even if you know deep down that's not what you truly deserve. So for me, my inner child believes that I don't deserve to be in a healthy relationship, and that toxic relationships are the only relationships that I could ever find myself in. And so what I do is I'll sit down and I'll talk to my inner child. I'll ask her why she feels that way, what evidence has she been given to believe that, and then I'll try and convince her otherwise. There are lots of questions that you can find on Pinterest that will help you to do so if you don't really know where to start. But honestly, put up a picture of yourself somewhere in your room, and whenever you find yourself talking negatively to yourself, go to that picture and ask yourself if you would say those same negative things to that younger version of yourself, because I'm sure you wouldn't say those things to a child, so why are you saying them to your current version of yourself? Number 5 is to set boundaries with your own fantasies. Of course, I'm a lover girl, so I'm always falling for the fictional characters who are doing everything they possibly can to save their partner. Start practicing mindful activities, and whenever you find yourself romanticizing or fantasizing about a character like that, start saying to yourself that this fantasy isn't helping me, and what's the reality that I want instead, and then replace the current story that you're fantasizing with the one where you know you'll be receiving the kind of love that you actually want in your life. Number 6 is to find healthy role models of love. You need to allow yourself to see what healthy relationships actually look like, so that your nervous system becomes more normalized with them. This is how you show your brain that you don't need danger to feel alive. It might seem a little bit silly for me to say this, but one of the relationships that I really look up to is Tam Cole's relationship with her boyfriend. Now, she doesn't really post a lot about her boyfriend on social media, but you see enough to be able to see that what they have as a relationship seems really healthy, and seems like that they are always showing up for one another, and that they have unconditional love for one another. Now, of course, with the media, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. You don't know what is exactly going on behind the scenes, but I do think that what they have is something that I can look up to compared to what you see on TV. I don't want to be romanticizing Joe Goldberg's relationship with the women that he falls in love with, because that's not going to end up being a good ending for me. But if I romanticize a healthy relationship and I see that I am worthy of that, then it makes me feel that I can one day be in a relationship like that as well. What I've done is I've made a standard folder in Instagram, and that's basically just full of videos of like the standard that I have for myself when it comes to myself and my partner and the kind of relationship that I want in the future. Whenever you see a video video that showcases this healthy love that you want to experience yourself, save it to that folder and look back on it whenever you realize that you're romanticizing or fantasizing toxic love. And number 7, and arguably one of the most important ones, is that you have to remind yourself that you do not need to suffer in order to be loved. I seemed to believe that if I wasn't suffering in my relationship with my ex, then that meant that I wasn't doing good enough as a girlfriend. But that is not the truth. You don't need to suffer to show someone that you love them. You don't need to be in pain to show someone that you will do anything for them no matter what. It should be with ease. You should be enjoying being in that relationship with that person, not being stressed all the time or feeling like you're in battle 24/7. We are literally brought on this earth to connect and love others. It is something that comes natural to us, and the fact that we have to fight for that in these toxic relationships shows us that they are not right for us. If you have to, please just write it on a post-it note and put it on your mirror. Write, I do not need to suffer to be loved. I am enough just as I am. And whenever you feel yourself romanticizing this toxic love and believing that you need to suffer to be in love with someone, go to that post-it note, look at it, look at yourself in the mirror and say it to yourself. Why do you want yourself to suffer just to be loved? Why do you feel that you are not enough as you are to just be loved the way that you are? Because you are enough. More than anything, I want you to understand before I end off this video that the problem isn't that you always see good in people. I don't want you to think that you now need to see all the flaws in people and never see any of the good. Of course, it's a really beautiful trait to always see good in people, but there is a barrier. There is a line that you shouldn't cross. You shouldn't allow other people to disrespect you and then say, oh, but it's fine, they have a golden heart, they're good on the inside, they don't really mean it. Everybody has control of the way that they treat other people, okay? Everybody has control of the actions that they do. And so you need to understand that although you do see the good in people, and that's great, you also need to see the bad as well and balance it out and see where the line is that you do not allow yourself to cross. So to the girls that are watching this video that find themselves falling for the bad villain, I see you. You're not crazy and you're definitely not weak. You're coping in the best and in the only way you know how. But the real power comes when you stop choosing to romanticize all the toxic love that you see and choose peace instead. Choose yourself instead. The kind of love that doesn't make you fantasize feeling safe. The kind of love that doesn't need fixing. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was definitely a little bit of a different one, but when I watched that last episode of season 5 of You, I generally had so much that I wanted to say, and I really wanted to get down to the core of why women like you and me, or even guys, seem to fantasize the bad villains and seem to fantasize the bad ones. We need to stop doing that, okay? As a collective society, we need to stop doing that, and we need to start romanticizing and fantasizing healthy love instead, because that's what we truly deserve. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Drop a comment down below of what your favorite thing is that you've learned from today's video. I post videos every Sunday at 12 p.m, occasionally vlogs here and then, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye, my lovelies.